Hey, friends, welcome to Conversations with Tad. This is number 41, at least according to our numbers. They may be imperfect, but that's how we're numbering it now. So, number 41 of Conversations with Tad, going through discipleship with my buddy Tad. I'm Michael Patton, and we're still talking about prayer. So, if you want to watch us in this discussion on prayer, hang out as a fly on the wall. I'm actually going to turn on right here the chat so that I can see it. I usually don't have that on because I forget about it, but the chat is on. If you all want to join in and get in the conversation, ask any questions, whatever it may be. But Tad is my buddy. He has become a Christian recently, and I'm just walking him through the faith. So hang out and watch us. I'm bringing Tad in the room, and we're going to forget you guys exist. Hey, Tad, you were already in the room.
Hi, everybody. Even though we forgot you existed.
No, I didn't know I had you on the little deal on the bottom.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Sorry, I was talking about you. I don't know if you could hear.
I could hear it. Yeah.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Are we on the? Yeah, I'm on the sidewalk and I'm looking at you. Okay. I feel like I'm frustrating you through this process because I think that you think that we would have been done with this prayer thing like 2 weeks ago.
No. I have slowed it way down. You don't understand how much I've slowed it down because it's really good conversation, and it's for me too. I mean, it's like anytime I go through this, like I told you a couple times ago, it's like I'm so imperfect at this right now. It's ridiculous. And just that other day when we prayed together, that was really good because it forces me to just sometimes it's so easy for prayer to become rote and just like you forget that it's rote. And that he's right there. And whenever I teach, I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
After
so is there a time frame, years. Like, is there a 45?
Wow. Well, 45 years of praying. I start remembering maybe 45 years ago. I don't know.
Okay. You just threw out 45, but I stuck with it. Is there
I don't remember whenever I was born. Up until whenever I was
question, that'd be awesome.
I'm six. Okay. I'm 51. I'm 2 years younger than you.
I know. Okay.
You're an old man.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like it. By the way, it's good though. I mean, it's a good old. We get wiser with age. Somebody said. It wasn't me, clearly. But is there a time frame? I mean, is there too long of a prayer? Because I listened to one the other day and it wasn't you, honestly. And I'm like, this is going on forever. It's almost like. They like to hear themselves, like they forgot about something they wanted to say at the beginning, and then they came back to it. And I'm like, dude, you're killing me. I'm thinking about how long this prayer is compared to what the meaning is. I'm sure there's a message.
You're talking about like
after
a lesson.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. It took. It might have been you actually. You were wearing slacks.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, it was you,
dude.
Yeah, and it was the beginning of one of your. Never mind.
No, it can't be.
It was you.
I do think it's perfect.
How this thing start? What were we praying for at the beginning?
What was it? Was it like me and you praying?
Yeah, right. And mine are like 2 seconds long.
What the heck?
It wasn't that one. It was one that I was watching a video. I mean,
well, it's because we had already prayed together, and you already were gone through it. You already went through the experience of it.
No, man, this is when you were at Stonebriar. I went back to one of your classes.
Yeah, maybe so, dude. Back then, I was like a lot more trying to impress and trying to figure I had to have one of those prayers with all the, I don't know. You get older and you quit caring quite so much about what other people think of you.
I think that's what it is. Because my prayers are like, literally, I think I've made it out to about 10 seconds now. And I feel like I'm leaving them on the table where I want them to want more from me. I don't know if I'm stopping selfishly, if I figure I already got my point out,
I don't know. But I don't know. Sometimes when people pray together and you do that stuff, I mean, you'll get in situations where you all pray together and there is a formality and there is an etiquette in some ways that you go by, and you kind of have to, but at the same time, it's breaking the etiquette if people see you as somebody that can, and then they'll be influential rather than just be rebellious. It's just always situational, how you pray, and you do always want to be serious and respectful, but sometimes it's like, I've been in churches where, you preach and it's a very expressive, if you know what I mean. It's like,
yeah, that's probably a better word than I should have used as far as dragging on.
Yeah, yeah. Just
expressive.
long as it goes and people are shouting in the background as you're praying. And
Yeah, that's a whole.
sometimes you
Put
hear
their
it,
hands up in
they're
the
like,
air, dude.
Amen.
Yeah, and they're both their hands are in the air or one, and
Yeah.
it's unnerving if you're not used to that. It's like, why? I mean, he knows you're here. What's the hands do? I think we might have talked about that before.
Yeah.
But and I'm watching this guy, and I'm sure you've seen him on, and we'll get to praying in a minute. I just have some questions, and that he's like in this like at a college campus, and he's standing in a grassy little area. It looks like there's almost some bleachers or people are around there, and they're asking him all these questions, and he
Yeah.
has an answer, like a good one for every single thing. And I didn't know if you'd watched him. I don't know his name, but do you know who I'm talking about? I think
I
you would be great
do.
at
I
that
do.
if you weren't so argumentative.
I'm not even going to argue
Oops.
because that doesn't
Well
apply to
played.
me.
Well played. Well played.
No, I do know who you're talking
I
about.
walked into that.
Kirsty Ginsterblum's son, Nate, goes out with him, and he's kind of being trained by him right now. I think he's in North Carolina, but he just goes out to campuses and argues with people, and does a I don't know, from my standpoint, he does a decent job, and who am I to criticize? He's out there doing it.
Yeah, from my standpoint, it's everything that I need to hear. It's almost like that Letters from a Skeptic book. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so that's a question I can ask. And thank God for you, because I mean, I feel like I can ask you anything and I don't care.
Yeah.
But I think some people are thinking like, I don't really feel comfortable asking my pastor this, and thank God,
Yeah.
The guy in the purple shirt is naive enough to ask Michael anything. But that guy, I'd like to meet him, and I need to go back and what I read from what's his name, your nephew,
Nate.
not Zach. It's not Will. It's Nate. And like that, I read it and it was amazing. And right, or did I watch it?
I think I have a delay. Do I have a delay with my voice and my mouth? Is it different for you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is weird.
But
I wonder
it's
why.
not popping.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Better than the delay, but I don't like it because
well, you
whenever
look good. Your hair looks great, and I'm sure you smell amazing.
Whenever I talk over you, and then sometimes all of a sudden you start talking while I'm talking, and it's weird. Not like normal. We always talk over each other, but
yeah. Okay. So you didn't hear what I said before you said all that?
No, I did. But it's prayer is funny. It's kind of like, yes, there's an etiquette, but also a propriety that you always want to be real, and you don't ever want to. There's situations where people ask you to hold hands, and you don't go, I don't know, it doesn't do anything if I hold your hand, so I'm not going to hold it. You just hold it to be nice. It's just etiquette type stuff. People say bow your head, close your eyes. You'll bow your head and close your eyes, and even if you don't, maybe you pray with your head up. Some people pray with their hands up. It's just more expressive to them, and it's just people do things differently, and you got to learn to tolerate it and work within it.
Yeah, I just I can't pray with my eyes closed because there's too much thing going on when I close my eyes.
Yeah.
When my eyes are open, I can focus on who's saying it and I can hear the message better. So I'm sure that's something that I'm doing wrong, but
no. I mean,
anyway,
there's nothing in the Bible.
I mean,
there's not a word in the Bible that says you got to pray with your eyes closed. There's not a word in the Bible that really says when you got to pray. There's examples David talks about. He says, David is a very expressive person in the Psalms, and that there's all of the Psalms are prayers and songs. They're prayers to God, and sometimes the prayers are a bunch of complaints. Sometimes they're praises. It's really funny with David because one psalm will be praising God and saying thank you that I'm not like the unrighteous people. The next one will be going, please forgive me for everything because I suck so bad. And then the next one will be saying, I don't even know if you're around anymore. It's just crazy the way it goes, but it's very typical of many people and our ups and downs in life. And I'm glad that God included the variety. I mean, it's not the way you would expect someone that really loves and knows God, who God said David was a man after his own heart. Only person in the Bible that said that about that. I'm choosing a man after my own heart. And here's David praying the way he prays, and it's very comforting.
Okay. I was going to ask you about Ephesians, but I forgot my question.
No, that's all right. I'm gonna bring this up. Just remember, if you remember, let me know. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we're continuing through the Lord's Prayer. Remember,
Yep.
model prayer that simply is giving us kind of the main hallmarks of prayer and what to pray. So, okay, let's see here. Share. This is the next part. We've last part. Remember, it was prayers, confession, forgive us our sins. This one is prayer of call for deliverance in warfare. It says, and do not let us yield to temptation, or lead us not into temptation, depending upon the translation you have. But it's just the idea of calling out to God, saying, listen, I know I'm going to be tempted. Don't let me go. Charles Spurgeon was a great preacher, and he said something that is perfect. At least it's perfect for, let me close that. How do I get this out of there? At least it's perfect for many areas, but he says, Lord, whenever I have the temptation to sin, take away the opportunity. Whenever I have the opportunity, take away the temptation.
So
And it's
he's
like
saying the
those
same
are,
thing.
huh?
He's saying the same thing.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, I mean, those are the only two things. Those are the two things we've got, really. I like how Spurgeon put it, because it's like, why does he have to do one or the other? Why can't you just be tempted with the opportunity and get past it? And
Right.
it's kind of like, man, you can't be into that temptation. You can't be in those situations. And so there's situations in which you say, if I go to this place, I know I will be tempted. I know that I'm not strong enough. I will break down. I will give in. I know myself. I know my flesh. And this one's just saying, listen, we've got bad flesh. Keep us away from temptation, because we'll mess it up.
Yeah. And sometimes you're
Get
looking
it?
for the temptation. You feel guilty the whole time you're going. And you're like, God, now there's
Yeah.
an opportunity because of this stupid temptation. And I knew this the whole time.
Yeah.
And I feel bad,
Yeah.
but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I've met people that have.
But it's like the
Okay.
first thing.
So,
Let's say you get up in the morning and you say, God, listen, today is going to be a day that, no matter what, I'm not good with temptation. So please keep me away from it all. Keep my mind away from it all. Keep my body away from it all. Keep all circumstances away from it all. And that's just something that Jesus, think about it. Jesus tells us to pray for this. It's temptation is always going to be there. We will be tempted till the day we die. And no matter who you talk to, no matter what age they are, no matter whether they're 90 years old and they've been a Christian for 80 of those years, or all 85 of those years, they will tell you temptation never changes. It doesn't. It's always there. And it takes just a little bit to get back into it and screw up everything. And you know how one screw up can mess up everything.
yeah.
There's sins out there that are big enough that just break the entire model. Everything we've got, our entire foundation, everything falls apart. And so it's lead us not into temptation, knowing that we are still sinners.
It's kind of like the serenity prayer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but
Yeah.
because of my little,
I've been to A plenty of times.
and I really like that prayer. I haven't heard it in a while, but the certain words in there, and to me, I felt it every time, and I went and did all my little tour, and that was the prayer that I never got tired of saying, except the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, that deal.
Yeah.
Please,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's for to do the things I can't remember, but you get the temptation.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing?
You're kind of freezing. You've frozen for a while. Your sound's not that bad, but the video is kind of down. All right, there we go.
Okay. Well. Okay, so your
Oh, let's
mouth
see here.
moves.
Lead
I'm
us
gonna hear
not
your
to
voice.
temptation. I know. This one's messed up for some reason. Just take long pauses in between each conversation that we have, and that way we'll let each other start back up.
Okay.
Not that long of a pause. Okay, let's see here. And God doesn't lead. God has never tempted anybody. James tells us that. The book of James says God does not tempt anybody and cannot be tempted himself. And so it is always the situation that brings about the temptation, or Satan that brings about the temptation. And that's why the next part here is so important, talking about Satan. And this one says, do not, but rescue us from the evil one. Some translations have lead us not into evil. I think the King James has that, but really it's the evil. And most translators would say this has a specific evil in mind, and this is the evil one he's talking about. So Satan, deliver us from Satan. And I think I think I've told you this before, but out of this is a model prayer. You don't have to. It's not like there's not other things you could pray about or talk to God about. It's just they said teach us to pray, and I think there's only 7 things if you break this down that Christ says, okay, here's a good one to go by. Here are all the main things, and it says, deliver us from Satan. That's one of the 7, and I don't know. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, it's like that's a big, significant part of our prayer life, Christ said, should be devoted to this, what we call it in Christianity, and it's kind of a buzzword, and I know you don't like these, and I don't like them either, but I do want you to get to know them just so you know where people are coming from whenever they say this. But it's talked about as spiritual warfare. Spiritual warfare. Now, you may have never heard that, so you might think it sounds kind of cool. So that would be good. There's too long of a pause.
Spiritual war. Yeah. Well, I was trying to. I'm thinking, like, when you talk, I don't just let it go through one ear and out the other. I pay attention. I process.
I know. I just know there's a long pause.
Okay. We'll start doing like walkie-talkie and stuff. I'll say over when I'm done.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Over.
And we're over at the same time. That does not rock. It can't be over at the same time, man. Okay, get me back to this. I'm really into this prayer thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Over.
Let me bring you to a different one. This is in Ephesians chapter 6. This is an important passage. It says, finally be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might. This is talking about spiritual warfare, but put on the whole armor of God. And this is something really good to memorize because you can really think about it, and understand each one of these aspects, what Paul is telling us about what we call spiritual warfare. It says, put on the whole armor of God that you might be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. It's one thing to notice whenever you are going through the scripture, especially the New Testament, there is a lot to be said about what he says here. This next verse, in verse 12, he says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. It's not the things that you see really that are the problem, that Paul says. It's not the things that are out there that are problem, that are tangible, but against rulers, not earthly rulers. So get that out of your mind first. There's certain kind of rulers that are not earthly rulers, that are not under God's. They have not submitted to God, even though God's in control of everything. These rulers have not submitted to God. and against authorities. These authorities also have not submitted to God, even though everything has been created by God. He is in control of everything. Everything is on God's leash. These rulers and authorities are evil rulers. And it says, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. That right there is a memory verse,
Okay.
because this is what our ultimate battle is about, well, against every single day. There is stuff going on behind us. And I don't know how well, at least at this point, Tad, that you are. I mean, I think you're much, much better than you were earlier, 6 months ago, about understanding and accepting this stuff. But I can understand how it would sound to somebody who's on the outside whenever I say Satan, whenever I say spiritual forces going on in the background, demonic forces, forces that are rulers and authorities, that are cosmic powers, that are not good angels,
Yeah.
and possibly, not necessarily bad angels, but rulers and authorities that are evil. So you've got all kinds of. Just think of it this way: there is so much hell going on behind us every single day, and all of that stuff is concentrated on the hatred that they have of God. And the moment you started loving God, you changed teams, and you are the target. You have a target on your back in every single way. They want you to sin. They want you to doubt. They want you to be discouraged. They want you to fall apart. They want anything and everything to die, to kill yourself. All of these, their ultimate goal is just to screw up whatever God has done. And he loves you more than anybody. So who are they gonna attack more than anybody? They attack people. And I don't know how many there are. I don't know. I don't know anything. There's no logistics in the Bible about these forces. It's very mysterious, and there's so much speculation and so much thought. And whether it's the guardian angels and demonic possession and just all kinds of stuff that we don't know about that happens, that is just outside of our control. All we know is that God can defeat them, and they want you to hate God. They want you to turn against God. They want you to follow them rather than them. And they're going to do everything. I'm not saying you blame everything in the world on them, because that we don't need them to screw up. But at the same time, our screw up ability combined with their temptation and their powers, it can trip us up pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of easy picking too. You think they'd go for someone a little, less engaged. So have you read any part of, man, I can't, you might get in trouble for this. Well, you just say, I don't know. Have you read any part of the Satanic Bible?
I didn't know there was actually a Satanic Bible.
Oh,
I mean,
well,
is there just one? Are you talking about what's his name's the guy that what's his LaVey?
I don't
The one that
know.
he wrote?
I don't know. I just read
Anthony LaVey.
Okay, but it's just I got nervous, and but I didn't know if you had, like, in all your studies. I didn't say over, so you can't laugh yet. This might get real serious here in a minute. You might cry. Do they have? I didn't say over, Michael. Do they have? Like, is it like a plot? Is it like a war? You said kind of a warfare. Or you didn't say kind of. You said warfare. But does their Bible, like, just plot against? Here's how we're going to get the good people. Here's how we're going to get God folks from Him, or is it more of worship Satan because he gives us everything? I mean, I just want to know the difference between a prayer that they have compared to.
Well, here's what I would say. First of all, the most important thing would be this. I already started. Sorry, would be this passage. Let's see here. Let me find it.
Is that a dumb question?
No, that's really good, and this leads me into this one that I forgot that I should have I should have brought up. But in First or Second Corinthians chapter 11, it says, "No wonder." Well, hold on, let me back up a little bit. And Paul talking First Corinthians or Second Corinthians is Paul. He says, "And what I am doing, I continue to do in order to undermine the claim of those who would like to claim that their boasted mission work they work is the same as what we do. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as apostles of God. And listen to this. No wonder these are false apostles that have come in and said, hey, Paul's not really teaching you guys right thing. Let me teach you the right thing, and giving them bad doctrine, misleading them in the wrong way. So teaching them bad doctrine, teaching them the wrong way. And it says, Paul says, no wonder they do it like this, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the Satanic Bible can't be something that Satan might use, but it's probably the very last thing he uses. He likes to use things that look very close to what is godliness, but it's not godliness. It'll present itself as godliness, a form of godliness, something that is close, but if we don't know the Bible well enough, we can be led astray really, really easily because it sounds good, but it's not in the end. It's something that is evil.
Okay. That's a good explanation.
What I'm saying is you're looking for evil. You're looking for Satan. We don't look for him down at the Satanic Church. We don't look for him at the depths of hell. Hell isn't even open for business yet. I don't think it comes into being till after judgment. We've got all of the spiritual forces still on there doing their duties, whatever God set up, and they rebelled against, and whatever happened with them. Probably something very similar to what happened with us, but we don't know. But they have powers. They're strong. And they said, hey, whenever we go down there and do stuff, set yourself up as something that looks as close to what God would look like, but a little bit different. And let's get on the path with them so that we can slowly guide them off the path. They don't take us a 90-degree usually, because that's too easy to spot. That's too easy for us to say, no way. They take us one step at a time away from it. So it's always like, what the first step is always a little step towards evil. And that's the first one that always goes to the next step that's little, to the next step that's little. And the next thing 100 steps down, you're way off and you're going back the other direction. And that's exactly how it happens. That's how they lead us. Satanic Bible should be scary, too scary.
Right. But it seems like their whole thing is wanting to scare you into, I don't get it. I mean, it'd probably be an interesting study, maybe. I mean, I still would like to. I just want to hear not their side, because I'm convinced, but it's just like, how? Like, what is it? Tell me your recruiting process. I guess is kind of where I'm going with this.
Well, more than likely, it's the Satanic Church that is basically New Age, and they wouldn't come and say, if you would say, hey, do you worship Satan? They'd say, no, we don't even believe Satan exists. They'd say, what do you do? Well, we just try to do good things and help man. That's exactly what they would say. There's not going to be, hey, let's go down in there and sacrifice children. And, you shall sacrifice this many goats and this many children and all this. Nothing does that. But there are cults that go off in that direction and eventually get there, but they don't have any recruiting process that would ever start there, because it goes against the very nature of man. I mean, we do have the image of God within us, and we don't start with that kind of evil. We always start with evil, but it's just slowly getting us off the path until it's too late. And that's what you got to watch out for. That's what, whenever Jesus says, pray for temptation against the devil, to keep you off that path, to spot that path. Pray every day that you can spot that path. Lead us not into temptation. Lead us not off the off-ramp of the path of godliness.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Not about that. I'm sorry to get that out there, but I start hearing temptation. I start hearing other things, and I'm like, okay, well, if he knew we're going to go through all this, and Jesus went through it, what's the other side saying? You know, so that's where
Well,
I was
look,
going with that.
that's a good question because look at what Satan tempted Jesus to do. Look at what he did with, let's just say, Adam and Eve. He comes up to him and they said, "Hey, God," he said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, we're not supposed to eat of this tree of good and evil." And he said, "That's not true. He's just scared you're going to become like him." So it's presented something that to them that was tempting. And he's saying he didn't get it right. You're not going to die that day. He's just scared that you're going to become like him. So that he knows the day you eat of it, you will become like gods. And he presents something very, very, it
Wow.
sounds very good to them. He doesn't
Right.
say you will become like evil people or whatever else. Nobody starts off wanting to be like that. But hey, be like gods, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. No. Okay. I was all right.
Whenever he tempted Jesus, he said, "Turn that stone into bread." That wasn't
Mm-hmm.
anything terrible, but he was
No,
tempting
but
him
I'm
to
sure he
get.
had a great spiel for that. And that's why I pictured him. We're talking about the Bible, but still studying, um, like being real kind of savvy guy. Not this really scary looking guy, just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the guy
yeah,
that could fit into any church.
yeah.
And anyway, so you want to finish that verse real quick because I know we're at 30 minutes.
I'm sure in his nature, that he probably doesn't look that great, but he wouldn't present himself to us
Right.
in that way. It'd be something very different. Yeah, let me read the rest of this part to you. I think it'll be good, really good. Um, this part about the armor of God and the spiritual warfare. Let's see here. The verse 13, it says, "Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that we may be able to withstand in the evil day, having done all to stand firm. Stand firm, therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth." So you got the belt, and that is truth. By going after truth, you want to establish truth. Your life should be dedicated to truth and learning truth. Having put on the breastplate of righteousness. This is the righteousness. I mean, look at this. It's guarding our heart. Having put on the breastplate of righteousness. That is being like Christ. As the shoes for your feet, having put on in readiness to give the gospel of peace. This is basically our mission because there are shoes. What's our mission here? Ultimately, we want to give people the gospel, whether it be through everything that we say or everything that we do, to where people are looking at us and say that person is living differently. That's wearing the shoes of the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith. So everything you have the shield of faith. How do you fight against Satan? The shield of faith. How do you fight against evil forces? The shield of faith. How do you fight against dominions and powers of darkness? The shield of faith. How do you withstand against all of these? It says, to which you are able to extinguish the flaming darts of the evil one, which he's shooting us all the time. And take up the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. So that is another good one to know, with regard to spiritual warfare.
And that's Ephesians.
Yeah, that's Ephesians chapter 6.
All right.
So keep that in mind. Think of that. It's easy. I mean, you got the gospel, that are your shoes, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation, and then the sword of the Spirit and the shield of faith. But just remember that this time, the shield of faith, because at all times we are to wear that. That is
Yeah. I mean,
how we beat everything.
he's given us the blueprint. He's saying, here's what's going to happen. And
Yeah,
here's what you do to stop it from happening, or not stop it from happening, but here's how you handle it.
yeah.
And we still go and do bad things knowing he already told us this was going to happen. So anyway, let me think this through. But Thank you for being patient.
It's interesting, real quick, though. It's interesting the things we come up with, though. Speaking about your background, here's this: the full armor of God is told to us. Every aspect is given to us, but we come up with all kinds of new stuff. We come up with the crosses, the making the sign of a cross, holy water, all these other things that supposedly are the main things that fight Satan, where it's all listed here, and it has nothing to do with any of that. But you see how that looks. It's kind of like, hey, this will really work. This is even better than putting up the shield of faith. This is even better than the helmet of salvation. Holy water. It sounds good, right? It looks good. People are using it that seem good. So those are the kinds of things that I think Satan uses to mislead us.
Wow. Okay. I thought I was so bad one time. I drank some holy water. I think, in 7th or 8th grade.
Did it burn?
It tasted like water, and it took a little while to kick in, I think, but it didn't save me on that one.
Did you stop doing what you were doing?
Yeah. It was lying about going. It was lying about going to church. I'd just ride my bike to church, and then I wouldn't go. I'd pick up the pamphlet and go home and tell my mom I went to church.
So you went and drank holy water. You felt so bad.
Because I knew she was going to ask the priest, and the priest would tell me so I wouldn't leave that he's going to talk about me in the homily that day of the sermon. And I was like, okay, I got to stay for this because my mom's going to ask him if I heard it, and she's going to ask me. And I'm like, man, the only thing I know how to do is, drink some holy water.
Well, I did it one time to keep Satan away from me. I was really scared, whenever I was a kid for some reason, because my room was weird, man. I had monster wallpaper and all that, this kind of stuff. And I don't know, the kid before me supposedly did seances in my room, but it was a freaky room. But anyway, I was scared of that room. And so here's what I did. I tricked him. I tricked the evil Satan and, all the demons. I took my Bible, I opened it up like I was reading it, and then I literally did it this way. I let it go so it'd fall on my chest, so it looks like very natural. I was reading it, and I fell asleep. So they'd come in there and go, man, he's been reading the Bible. We got to get out of here.
Did it work?
I don't know, man. If it could have, I don't remember having one of those night terrors that night. So,
well, but if they came in there close enough to see you were reading, that right there would have freaked me out.
All right, Tad.
Well, thank you for being patient with me.
All right. Yeah, just keep that in mind, man. There's not a lot of things that Christ tells us to pray for, but if this is one of them, let's not forget that, because it's the thing I find myself forgetting the most, because I'm like, Satan, come on, I'm already saved, so he's not going to bother me. But every day I need to be praying for deliverance from evil, deliverance from the evil one.
Okay. All right.
Love you, bro.
Well, I love you, Mike. Over.
Okay. See ya. Hey, everybody. Thanks for showing up. We will see you next time when we go through the next part of the Lord's Prayer. Have a good day.